Thank you. Senator Fischer.
Thank you, Senator Schmidt. Mr. Davis, government censorship in the name of fact-checking is an unacceptable trampling on our democratic values. Knowing what we know now, how should social media companies respond if the government comes to them to deplatform users based on their political opinions? What's your suggestion?
That's a great question. Thank you for raising it. If I could wave a magic wand and create a solution or a response there, what I would say is anytime a government goes to a social media platform, Google, YouTube, Twitter, whatever, and they tell someone you need to take this down because it's hate speech or misinformation or whatever fancy label they want to throw on speech they don't like, first off, those tech companies should tell them to take a hike. We don't censor anyone. We're a platform. We're not a content company. And then number two, I think they should have to disclose it to the public and the people who were targeted. I would love to have known in 2020 who was actually behind the censorship of me and my colleagues. We knew we were being censored because we watched it happen. We saw our posts disappear. We saw ourselves being shadow banned. We didn't actually know why. I would say to this day, we don't actually understand the full extent of the government effort to censor us. So I think there should be full disclosure following an absolute denial of any sort of censorship demands from government. It's totally inappropriate.
Thank you. Mr. Berenson, I thank you for sharing your experience of being deplatformed by Twitter. It's a valuable story for us to hear. You spoke of a huge influence that you witnessed between Twitter and the White House at the time back in 2020, and you described your understanding that the company's lobbyists hoped to keep the White House target off their back. Can you explain specifically what your understanding of that target was, and are you aware of any specific threats that were made?
Sure. So in July 2021, as the Biden administration was preparing vaccine mandates, and that's sort of what you have to understand about the backdrop here, and they knew that those might be politically unpopular, they started pressuring the companies to deplatform people like me. I mean, they'd been doing this, but they upped the pressure, and that's when President Biden said that Facebook was quote unquote killing people by allowing people like me or RFK Jr. to speak. And you know, the biggest legal protection that social media companies have is what's called Section 230, as I'm sure you know, where they're essentially immune from lawsuits from users over the decisions they make for content. So they have all the immunity of a traditional publisher to make decisions over what speech they want to carry. Did
the White House, do you have any kind of information or records? Did the White House specifically say what they would do to Twitter?
Well, so they specifically, well, they publicly said that they were going to reconsider Section 230. That was, again, in July. And they had privately said to Twitter in April, they had, based on Twitter's own records, said a really, quote unquote, a really hard question about why I was still being allowed to speak, which from my point of view and my lawyer's point of view, that all by itself was a First Amendment violation because it forced Twitter to start looking at me in a way that Twitter had not previously done, and that was in secret. And you know, and I'll say this:
there was no transparency.
No transparency
that Mr. Davis spoke of.
Yes. So I mean, look, I don't like what Brendan Carr did, but he did it publicly, and we can have a debate about it. What's really problematic is when the government goes in secret to these companies and targets individual users or individual categories of speech. And I think that shouldn't be allowed. I think that both parties should agree that targeting an individual user or an individual post, as you know, if it's legal, is wrong. And nobody's ever said that I said anything illegal. And actually, I think most people now would agree that a lot of what I said has been confirmed. So I think that that's a pretty basic place to start.
Thank you. Mr. Volokh, you mentioned a reporting mechanism that might be a promising idea for companies that think the government is coercing them. Can you describe to the committee how such a mechanism might have prevented a situation that Mr. Berenson just described, and how would you structure that mechanism?
Sure. So this is the familiar line that sunlight is the best disinfectant. There may, in fact, be certain kinds of requests to remove something that might be justifiable in certain situations if they're not coercive, but they're just kind of appeal to somebody's better instincts. Maybe, maybe not. But presumably it's something that members of this committee, that other members of Congress might be interested in, that reporters for newspapers might say, well, here's a list of all of these things that the government has been asking that people remove. Is it justifiable or not? Is it excessive? Does it show political bias? That's impossible to do if it's all essentially corporate secrets and government secrets.
I'm picking up on Senator Klobuchar's, I'm over time, can I finish? Thank you. Senator Klobuchar was saying she's worried, as I think many of us are, with AI and things that are happening there, and at least to get a label, do any of you know, are these social media companies, any of these companies capable of doing that, to be able to identify when something's been tampered with AI, or if it's totally false, to be able to do that?
Right. So I think that is a separate question, but a very important question. There is what you're asking, I think, is the technical question, which is even if they were just to do it on their own, can they do it? So my understanding is that there are ways of determining that. They're hard to do at scale. So perhaps a forensic examiner might look at a video, but it doesn't mean that you can have an algorithm that will reliably do it, and there's going to be false positives and false negatives. There's also always going to be an arms race, right? If there's a better fake technology, better detector technology, better fake technology that evades the detector technology. I'm not up on all the details, but my understanding is right now there is no guaranteed reliable mechanism of determining.
Then maybe you get into the whole question also on what's comedy, what's satire, opens up a whole another avenue then.
That's absolutely right. There certainly is no software you can write that says, oh, this is obvious parody, and therefore it shouldn't be taken down.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Senator Cantwell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you.